Now we're going to take a look at installing SQL Server on your computer, specifically the SQL Server Express version. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser, and then I'll pop open a new tab here, and I want to go to Microsoft.com/SQL, and this will take us to their page. And then under Products, we can go to the SQL Server Editions section, and you can see that there's an Express link over on the right hand side. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see here are links to download SQL Server. Now I already have this downloaded, so I'm just going to use mine. But it is important to note that we're going to need both the SQL Server Express and the Management Studio. So first off, I'm going to go to my Downloads folder where I have my SQL Express and my Management Studio, and I'm going to open up SQL Express. And up at the top here you can see that there's a new SQL Server standalone installation. This is what we want to do. Now SQL Server has a little bit lengthier install than some of the other ones, so we're going to be skipping through a couple of the loading screens so that way you don't get stuck staring at a computer screen that's doing nothing. Alright, so we'll go ahead and say that we want to start installing SQL Server, and it's going to go and check for all the different products that it needs, and then we'll get on to the actual install. Alright, so we're going to install the default set here. Just click Next. And here's where you can change your instance name. The default for SQL Express is SQL Express, but you could change that if you wanted to. If you already have SQL installed, it might be something completely different. The default for the full version is SQL Server. Now the SQL Server browser is something that you're going to want to turn on because it's used in a couple of the different authentication sections for Ignition connecting into SQL Server. Almost always you want it on, but your facility may need it to be disabled. You can talk to your IT guys about that. But we're going to set it to automatic. And here we can set the authentication mode. Windows authentication means it uses the normal Windows sign-in. Mixed mode means in addition to that you could also use SQL Server authentication, which will allow you to add usernames and passwords into SQL Server itself. And this will allow for the SA username, the super user account. So for that, I'm going to have to add a password. Doesn't matter what you put so long as you write it down. And I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And I don't need to opt in. Alright, so now that our installation is complete, I'm going to go ahead and hit Close here. And then we're going to close the Installation Center. Alright, so that's the actual SQL Server itself. So now we need to install the Management Studio. So I'll double click on this guy to open it up. And it'll open up a very similar screen. Alright, so we're going to go up to the top, new SQL Server standalone installation again. Alright, now that it's checked to see that there's nothing else we need, we'll go Next. Alright, so we're adding new installation of Management Studio. We'll accept their licensing terms. And all we need is the management tools. And don't want them to pull information in error logs. And now it's going to start installing. Alright, so now that's done. I'll close this. And again, close the installer. So now we should be all done with it. Let's go ahead and open up our Management Studio. All right, you can do that just from the little start button there. So we're going to connect. And then you can see in here we have our databases, the system databases. Now you don't want to really mess with the master model or MSDB, but the TempDB is something you can play around with. The only caveat to that though is the TempDB will clear itself every time you restart. So what we want to do is we want to right click and then say create a new database. And so right click on databases, say new database, and I'm going to call this guy test. And now we have a test database, and that way we can connect to it later.